Dusk draped downtown Chicago in a tired pewter light. Traffic murmured, steam rose from grates, and two men, twins, same face, different gaze, walked shoulder to shoulder. Ethan Moore wore dark jeans and a plain tee, posture steady, expression calm. His brother Daniel moved with alert stillness, leather jacket, black cap, a contained half-smile like someone who knows storms by first name. They laughed quietly about childhood scraps and backyard races. No one noticed them, not until a squad car bumped the curb and doors flew open. "Hey, you two," the passenger officer barked. "IDs, now!" The brothers exchanged a look. No broken law, no suspicious move, just the accident of a glance, or something older and uglier that still lurks at city corners. "Did something happen, officer?" Ethan asked, stepping forward. "Who told you to talk?" the senior cop snapped, palm near his belt. "Hands where I can see 'em. Fast." Daniel breathed in, slow, trained, heart steadying against old memories of swallowing humiliation whole. "We're just headed home," he said, voice even. "Haven't done anything wrong." But tension thickened. A younger officer approached, weapon low but ready, phones lifted, the air pressed down. "You look too much alike," the older cop said, a curl of irony. "Twins, huh? Cute cover. Or a trick?" A thin laugh. Daniel lowered his eyes, not in fear, but control. "My name is Ethan Moore," Ethan said, measured. "I'm a U.S. Army captain. This is my brother, Daniel." The reveal didn't land. The senior cop let out a dry chuckle. "Captain? Right. And I'm the president." Another officer stepped in and jabbed Ethan's chest with a finger. "Think you can run a story on us? You two were casing cars, weren't you?" Heat flared in Ethan's chest. First-year academy flashback, the kind that makes fists itch. He heard his father's voice. "Steady your breath, son." 4 counts in, 4 out. Daniel's hands curled into quiet fists. His limit was closer. "Don't lay a hand on my brother," Daniel cut in, razor calm. "We just came from the cemetery. We visited our father." The officer hesitated, then doubled down. "Cemetery, huh? Cute. Open the backpack." Ethan passed it over, eyes level. Inside, a worn paperback and 2 old medals. One Army, one with the gold trident, Daniel's Navy SEAL insignia. They didn't look. An officer dumped the bag. Everything splashed into a puddle. The medals clinked hard, one spinning to a stop at the shoes of an older woman watching in horror. Time paused. Ethan bent to retrieve the medal. The baton nudged his shoulder. "Stay still, hero." Daniel forgot to breathe for one beat. Training surged. He stepped in, voice low, steel soft. "Sir, I strongly suggest you step back." A laugh. "Oh yeah? Or what?" Silence swelled. Wind tunneled the avenue. Ethan caught Daniel's arm, holding back the storm. "Not worth it, Dan," he whispered. "They don't know who we are." The older cop, unsettled by their poise, frowned. "Who do you think you are, anyway?" Ethan drew a longer breath. When he spoke, something in the roomless street shifted. Not volume, presence. "I'm Captain Ethan Moore, United States Army, and my brother," Daniel lifted his gaze, cool, contained, "is a Navy SEAL team leader." The younger officer's eyes widened. Pride and fear wrestled on the elder's face. Murmurs rippled through the onlookers. Ethan wiped rain from the medal, the motion slow, almost ceremonial. "Honor isn't measured by the uniform you wear," he said, meeting the officer's stare. "It's measured by the respect you give." No one answered, only a far siren. The humiliation hung there, exposed, the prelude to a truth with its own momentum. Ethan pocketed the medal. Daniel fell into step. The officers backed off, awkward, eyes pinned to the watching phones. But the scene wasn't done. A student's camera had already sprinted ahead of them to the city's endless timelines. This was only the first crack. What followed would test character, invite repentance, and write a different ending than the one Pride planned. The clip moved like brushfire. Family chats, neighborhood pages, city feeds. Before the digital storm crowned, memory rolled in like old thunder. They were boys again in a South Side block that smelled like summer peaches from Mrs. Zuleid's yard and echoed with rubber balls thudding against brick. Their father, Thomas Moore, a man of few smiles and many steady hands, came home dusted with job site grit, eyes tuned to what his sons were learning without words. On the porch, he tied simple braided cords on their wrists, one navy blue, one forest green. "Balance isn't luck," he said. "It's practice." Their mother, Grace, warmed the house with stories about people who fall, get up, fix what they broke, and keep going. The first public sting came one Friday. A science teacher's watch went missing. Whispers found two black boys who looked too alike to be casual. The hall monitor searched them, found only a crumpled note with a doodled submarine and track practice time. "Coincidence doesn't exist," the teacher muttered. The fix arrived quiet as mercy. Ms. Carter, the literature teacher, asked the class to open backpacks. The watch surfaced in a trembling boy's bag. "I just wanted to see the gears." No shouting from Ms. Carter, just a careful lift of the watch like a small bird rescued. To the twins, she said, "Sometimes we break things trying to prove we're not what people say. You don't have to. Be who you are." The room exhaled, but suspicion stuck like a smell that isn't yours and won't wash off. Years later, Ethan took the officer's path, ROTC, then commission. The navy blue cord, sun faded on his wrist, reminded him, discipline is quiet forward motion. Leadership looks the wounded in the eye first. Sergeant Ruiz, a low-voice veteran, noticed his patience. Captain isn't a rank, it's a presence. Ethan learned the cost of uprightness. One wet midnight, a classmate hinted he'd advanced for appearances. The burn flared, the breath steadied. Ethan answered with a flawless report to command. Problem. Solution. New problem. Too correct. A label that collects respect and jealousy in equal measure. Daniel chose water. He crossed borders and language to Coronado, where the Pacific pounds boys into men who can hold a conversation with the night. Bud eschewed, and he kept breathing. During Hell Week, raw skin and salt, he forgot hours and counted only breaths. Burke, an instructor who smelled like coffee and gravel, leaned in at 3 a.m. You don't need to be the loudest on the beach, just the most reliable. Daniel passed with the silence of those who return whole. The forest green cord dulled under wet sleeves, but never left his wrist. Back in Chicago, Grace steadied the home like a lighthouse. Thomas wrestled with a stubborn heart. He had a habit of adjusting his cap before hard news. One September, he didn't. He left quietly, as men do who trust the love they've already built to keep working. The cords sat on the table for days until the twins looped them back on, a small buckle of memory at the pulse. Starting over isn't turning the page, it's rereading with care. The student who filmed the stop, Julian, uploaded the clip with captions and rising outrage. The younger officer from the stop, Nolan, watched in secret, color draining from his cheeks. He had a toddler, a coiled debt, and a supervisor, Lieutenant Camille Harris, who wore the posture of someone who knows the weight of late apologies. "You saw it?" she asked, not raising her voice. He nodded, eyes asking for a night he couldn't have back. "Responsibility isn't bad luck," she said. "It's a choice." Across town, at the community library where Grace volunteered, the librarian, Lydia, circled the kids for an impromptu reading. The mute video glowed on a forgotten phone while a girl read a poem about courage. Afterward, Lydia pulled out 2 ribbons, navy and green. "For our reading club," she said, not explaining how small symbols keep ships afloat in regular lives. Ethan sat at his father's old desk, thumb on the metal. The album fell open. The race he'd won but didn't celebrate because Daniel tripped 2 steps shy. The crumpled submarine note, Ms. Carter's open window calm. He called his mother. Grace answered, warm as running water. "Don't feed anger, son," she said. "Feed what heals." He laughed once. "Mom, the video left the house already." She knew what that meant. The whole city was moving in. Daniel, quieter than usual, got a discreet message from an old consulate contact. "Need to understand what happened. You okay?" He typed 2 uniform words. Functional. Yes. But his head was back in Coronado. Snow-cold waves, Burke's crossed arms, the old taunts. "You're not from here. You're not from there." He'd learned that belonging is sometimes a home you carry in your chest. Night news demanded verification. Anchors tried to split the difference between caution and obviousness. One commentator brought Ethan's service record on screen, public data, ceremony photo, the Navy cord visible on his wrist. Beside it, an image of Daniel at an international ceremony, eyes of a man who measures storms. For 3 seconds, the network fell silent, like the country inhaled together. Officer Nolan typed an apology, deleted, typed again, deleted. He saved 4 plain words in drafts. "I was wrong. Sorry." On the roof, the brothers watched the grid of lights. "Feels like that first march in the rain," Ethan said, hearing Dad in my breath. Daniel reassembled a thought like a rifle. "The street's an ocean. Without a compass, you drift." They smiled, not at the world, but at the safety of being known. Grace stepped out with tea and an old envelope. "He left this," she said, Thomas's last winter note. Paper smelled like closets near photo boxes. Ethan opened it. The handwriting took its time. "If the world ever turns its face from you, hold to what you learned. Justice loves arriving late. She's vain. Wait for her, but don't stand still." A call buzzed in. An institutional voice, all edges. "Press conference tomorrow, 11 a.m., Department of Public Safety. We recommend your presence. There will be public acknowledgement and immediate measures. We also ask for restraint. The city is attentive." Click. Relief flickered on the horizon. Mics, a correction, maybe repair. New problem marched right behind. Loud accounts muttered about the real story. Words like dossier, hoax, setup, clawed at timelines. In the hallway, Grace dimmed lights the house didn't need. "Rest is a trench," she murmured. On the shelf, 2 cords, now with tighter knots, glinted in the dark. Ethan tucked his father's letter into a hardback, a sea story classic Grace allowed at night. Daniel's hand touched Ethan's shoulder. "If tomorrow's seas run rough, we point the bow right." Wind played the wires like a nervous pianist. The city held its breath between day and a test of conscience. The press conference promised light, and light attracts everything, including moths. The doorbell rang, 3 short, 1 long. Lieutenant Harris stood there, immaculate, a folder under her arm, decision in her jaw. She inhaled. They did too, and night leaned in, curious. Morning broke like glass, clear, fragile, ready to shatter at the first raised voice. Coffee vendors said the twins, cabbies said that presser, radios mixed opinions with breath. In the Moores' apartment, steam iron and coffee mingled with tension. Grace smoothed Ethan's white shirt, like a hand over an ache that won't stop aching. Daniel reviewed a document, eyes disciplined, jaw tight, the forest green cord bright on his arm. "You don't have to go," Grace said. "Have you seen the internet? They're saying everything. That you're actors, that it was staged." Ethan kissed her temple. "That's why we go. Truth needs a face. Truth's a knife sometimes," she whispered. "It cuts the one who holds it and the one who fights it." Daniel clicked the key fob. "Let's move. Cowardice timed out yesterday." The Department of Public Safety's media room swarmed. Crews, booms, badges, foam windscreens. The state seal glowed under hot lights. 3 chairs, 1 podium. The secretary stepped up, baritone steady. "Good morning. We're here to address yesterday's incident and reaffirm our commitment to respect and justice." Ethan and Daniel entered side by side. A hush with camera flashes. For a breath, the light bronzed them. After reviewing footage and confirming identities, the secretary continued, "We acknowledge the stop was improper and disrespectful. The officers involved are relieved of duty pending investigation. To Captain Ethan Moore and SEAL Team Leader Daniel Moore, we offer a public apology." Ethan approached the mic, field calm. "We accept the apology. But this isn't just about us. It's about anyone judged before they can speak. The uniform I wear represents a country. I'm asking that country to look again." Daniel's voice followed, cool as tide. "No one needs a uniform to deserve respect. Justice isn't a favor. It's a duty." Applause grew from polite to full. Near the wall, a man in a dark suit didn't clap. Miles Figueroa, an investigative reporter known for making noise where silence gets too comfortable. He raised a hand. "Mr. Figueroa," Daniel nodded. "There are claims your careers aren't as clean as they look," Miles said, stepping forward. "Classified missions, controversial calls, that this incident is conveniently boosting your image. Care to respond?" The room tensed. Ethan held his gaze. "Honor doesn't need publicity," he said. "Only consistency." Miles lifted a folder. "I have documents from internal sources. A U.S. report naming you, Mr. Moore, in a Middle East operation. Civilian injuries. Do you confirm?" Daniel didn't move. Air thinned. Ethan turned. Daniel stayed still. "What you're doing," he said measured, "is trading justice for spectacle. I don't comment on classified operations." "So it's true," Miles pressed. Copper hot for blood. Grace, watching at home, put a hand to her chest. The camera lingered on Daniel's eyes. Not hard, not soft, just the weight of kept silence. "It's true there are pains you don't discuss in an auditorium," he said, "and choices your conscience pays for alone." The secretary cut in, shepherd's crook. The damage was done. Headlines began writing themselves before the brothers reached the sidewalk. Wind tasted like iron. "He planted a shadow," Ethan said. "Shadows outrun truth." "Shadows only exist because of light," Daniel answered. Microphones swarmed again. "Is it true you were removed from the SEALs?" someone shouted. "It's true no one understands the price of duty," Daniel said, "until they pay with their peace." In the official sedan silence, Ethan's phone buzzed. "Captain, be careful. Figueroa isn't alone. More is coming. Someone wants you down." "That's a threat," Ethan said. It's a forecast, Daniel said, eyes on the speeding city. Outside, organized hands launched fakes, chopped videos, tuned audio. The symbol of justice became a battlefield of doubt. Grace's phone wouldn't stop. Lydia killed her screen in 10-minute mercy breaks. Officer Nolan, alone in his cruiser, replayed the stop and saw his own mistake like a reopened scar. Night brought a call. Grace answered. Mrs. Moore, sorry to call late. This is Miles Figueroa. I need to speak to your sons. After what you did today, I found something that changes everything, he said, voice unsteady. It's about the report and who sent it. Silence. A long breath. I'll tell them, if you're lying, Grace said, gentle and flint. May your sleep feel it. Minutes later, the brothers met Miles in the lobby. He looked wrung out. I was used, he said, holding out the folder. Those papers were doctored. Someone wants to break you. I want to fix what I broke and own it. Ethan studied him. Justice hasn't arrived yet, he said, but remorse is a road it often takes. Rain began, soft and rinsing. Daniel's hand settled on Miles's shoulder. Do the right thing now. Tell the truth as loudly as you told the lie. Miles nodded. That night, a journalist began writing his own redemption. The man who forged the false dossier refused to be exposed, and revenge moved in shadows where headlines can't go. In a high-rise office, a single window burned. Grace whispered over Thomas's letter. A candle swayed. The quiet war between truth and silence had only just begun. Dawn didn't ask permission. Last night's rain threaded the gutters as the city dreamed. In a glass office above the loop, a man watched the avenue lights with the calm of someone who confuses control with wisdom. Colonel Alan Monroe, formerly over Ethan's evaluations, now a strategic advisor at Public Safety, tapped a finger against his mug. The screens around him scrolled the Moores saga. Years ago, he'd failed Ethan on a psych review for excessive idealism. He'd worn that pettiness like a pressed uniform. Captain Moore, he murmured. You wanted to be a symbol. Fine. B1, he dialed. Everything set? Yes, sir. Live at 11. Back at the Moores, sunlight tried the curtains. Ethan buttoned his uniform with ritual precision. Daniel, in civvies with a military spine, watched. You sure? Daniel asked. Miles is going to name Monroe live. This won't end clean. Truth needs the face of who injured it, Ethan said. If he planted this, he can own it. Grace appeared with a small wooden box. This was your father's, she said. Courage isn't going without fear. It's going with it. Inside lay the original cords, frayed thin. Take them. Time only steals what we forget. They slid the cords on, navy for Ethan, green for Daniel. History warming the pulse. Noon. Same press room, different weather in the air. Miles stood at the mic, nerves visible, proof lined up behind him. Ladies and gentlemen, he began, voice firm over shaky ground. I'm here to correct my mistake. The documents I used against the Moores were doctored. They came from inside this department. The name behind it is... Lights flickered. The mic squealed. A hard electrical pop. The screen went black. Ethan and Daniel traded a glance. Wrong. A tech sprinted to the panel. The image returned, but not Miles's deck. A cut of chaotic combat, smoke and shouting, tiny context, brutal edits. A caption burned, hidden proof, the brothers behind the lie. The room gasped, Miles clawed at controls. Locked out. Colonel Monroe's recorded face appeared, voice glacier calm. The public deserves to know who they idolize. Clay heroes can't carry real weight. Chaos. Phones up. Ethan muscled past chairs, killed the projector at the wall. Too late. The stream had already multiplied. "He wants your balance," Daniel said. "That's always been the play." "Not today," Ethan said, eyes lit with a different kind of calm. They left the scrum and headed for the 30th floor glass. Monroe waited, leaned over the city. He smiled like gunpowder remembering fire. "Knew you'd come," he said. "Men of principle never sit still." "You built a lie," Ethan said. "Why?" "Because symbols irritate," Monroe said. "And because you challenged me years ago. Thought your ethics outranked my orders. You wrecked 2 lives to salve an ego?" Daniel's voice was quiet and sharp. "The world isn't fair," Monroe said. "I just proved no one is untouchable." "Justice isn't revenge," Ethan answered. "Justice?" Monroe scoffed. "You still believe?" He opened a drawer, pulled the real report, clean, complete. "I could have used this, but the public wants drama, not truth." "You still have a choice," Daniel said. "End it." For a heartbeat, something like fatigue crossed Monroe's face. Then he straightened. "Too late. The video's everywhere. Then they can see this too." Ethan lifted his phone, ended a recording, played back Monroe's own words. The blood drained from the colonel's face. "Captain Ethan Moore," Ethan said, "you've just confessed to institutional fraud, abuse of authority, and public defamation." Daniel added, "The line between a soldier and a coward is what he does when no one's looking." Sirens braided the air. Internal Affairs pushed through the door. Cuffs clicked. Monroe stared at a future with walls and mirrors. "I hope you find peace," Ethan said. "But first, accountability." Outside, rain returned, thin, almost kind. Reporters lowered their mics as the brothers stepped into the light. A single sunbeam split the cloud and caught the Navy cord on Ethan's wrist. Miles waited at the curb. "The world heard it," he said, voice shaking. "We pushed the confession live." "What was error can be seed," Ethan said. "Use it to teach." Grace met them under shared umbrellas. She held them the way mothers fold time. "I knew it," she said through tears. "Justice may be late, but she's never lost." Applause rose, some crying, some filming. And for the brothers, only their mother's voice and the soft click of cord against cord existed. The conflict was over. The lesson would echo. Sunday woke lighter. Puddles mirrored a cleaner sky. Headlines bent around one word: truth. Ethan woke early, body sore, spirit rested. His father's medal caught the day's first beam. He ran a thumb across the crest and heard Thomas again. "The calm of a just man is his strongest weapon." In the kitchen, Grace hummed. Daniel walked in barefoot, the green cord looking new though it wasn't. "Sleep?" she asked. "Not much," he said, "but I woke up better." Ethan joined, t-shirt simple, hug warm. "Mom, we were thinking," he said. "Let's visit Dad." The cemetery sat high where trees talk in wind. They walked quiet. Daniel carried a small wooden box. Ethan, white flowers. Sun poured through clouds in gold ribbons. They stopped at Thomas More's stone. Just man, loving father, builder of ways. Grace touched the marble. "See, Tom, they still honor you." Daniel set down the box and opened it, the original cords and the ones they wore. He placed the worn pair on the stone. "We learned it," he said. "Strength isn't the loud part. It's staying whole. Ethan knelt. And justice without love is just revenge. Wind lifted the leaves. A bright shaft found the box, lighting the new chords. Grace smiled. Feels like he heard us. Back in the city, Miles stood outside the library where Lydia had planned a community event. I published the full investigation, he said. Evidence, confession, everything. Monroe's in custody. But more than that. He hesitated, hopeful. The department launched a new stop protocol and training against bias. Ethan shook his hand. Truth cleans when it's told with courage. And guilt, owned, becomes lesson, Daniel added. Miles blinked back, wet eyes. Thank you, and I'm sorry. Grace stepped in. Forgiveness saves the one who erred, too, she said. Not just the one who was hurt. Inside, Lydia welcomed neighbors to stories that heal. Every child wore a ribbon, navy and green, the Moore colors. Look what you started, Grace whispered. A small gesture, Daniel said, seeing the ribbons, the page-turning hush. And everything moves. Ms. Carter used to say that. Ethan smiled. Small acts heal. At the end, Lydia invited the brothers up. The room was full. Residents, students, officers. Officer Nolan hovered near the back, shame plain on his face. Ethan beckoned him forward. Captain, team leader. I don't have words, Nolan managed. I was part of that. I don't know if there's forgiveness for it. There is, Ethan said, glancing at Daniel. If it comes with repentance. Daniel slid the forest green cord from his wrist and pressed it into Nolan's hand. Keep it. Let it remind you that respect is trained, like balance. Applause rose, not triumphant, but clean. In that moment, justice became reconciliation. That night on the roof, Grace stood between her sons, the city breathing dinner and do-overs. Is it over? Daniel asked. No, she said softly. Stories like this don't end. They just change voices. Ethan closed his eyes into the wind. Dad used to say life tests us to see if we learn to love when it's hardest. I think today, we passed. Far below the library's laughter drifted up. The future felt less harsh. Grace gathered them in her arms. New beginnings, she said, often dress up like storms. A brief streak cut the horizon, a falling star, or maybe just a promise kept. This story reminds us that true energy comes from within, the kind that renews us every day. If this story touched your heart, check the pinned comment to discover products that inspire renewal and balance. Leave a like and subscribe to join us in our next story.